How to start a career in IT. Top IT career path. Well, the tech business is one of the most popular ones right now, so it makes sense that so many people are thinking about getting into it or changing careers in it. It's true that the tech business has a lot of job opportunities for people just out of high school or college, but when you're just starting out, it can be hard to know where to start. People who have been working in tech since they were young will always be ahead of you, and I understand all of your worries. There was self-doubt, stress about time, fear, not knowing where or how to start, etc. So, in this video, I'll show you a few different ways to go about a job in tech and give you some general tips on how to get started. And for each IT field, we'll look at whether it's an entry-level job, what they actually do, what some of their job duties are, and what skills you need to get into that field. I switched from studying marketing and business to IT, which I had never done before, not even in school or college. So, what IT jobs do you have to choose from if you want to specialize? There are, of course, a lot of different statistics and rankings out there, as well as a lot of different names for the same jobs. Most of the jobs that are popular and in demand are software engineering, DevOps engineering, cloud engineering, cybersecurity, or security engineering are some of the most famous and in-demand IT fields that have become even more popular over time. Data engineering, or jobs that have to do with data in general, and machine learning engineering will be even more in demand in the future. Just picking up bits and pieces of information here and there in the hopes of making sense of a lot of things at once, or even worse. It will make learning hard and take longer, and you won't be able to figure out what you like best. So let me help you organize your learning by showing you how each of these jobs is laid out on a map. Let's start with software engineering, which is the IT area that covers the most people and has the widest reach. I think it's also the easiest way to get into IT, and most people start their jobs there. A person who makes software tools is called a software developer or a software engineer. This could be an online app, a mobile app, or a desktop app. When you think of software, you can use it on your computer, your phone, or your smart TV. For example, you can use Amazon, Netflix, and all of these other apps on your smart TV. All of these were made by software experts, so they are all software. For example, you could become a front-end developer, whose job it is to make the part of an app that customers see in their browser, on their phone screen, or on their TV screen. You can become a back-end engineer and work on the application's back-end. You are basically people who can build both the front end and the back end of an app. Then there are categories like web developer, whose main job is to make web apps that can be used on a computer or mobile browser. You have mobile app makers who make apps for both Android and iOS. You can learn to code in Python. So, you can go deeper into a certain tool or area, or you can become a full-stack engineer, as I said, and both are good in their own ways. You need people who are experts in one area, but you also need people who can see the big picture and know a lot about many things. I prefer to learn a lot about a lot of things and how they fit together and work together than to learn a lot about one thing in depth. You must first know the basics of making software and writing code. For example, you can learn the basics of programming with any programming system. Things like variables, methods, data types, etc. I usually recommend JavaScript as the first language to learn if you want to start making software of any kind because it can be used for both the front end and the back end, and it can even be used to make mobile apps. Once you understand the basics, the next step is to start making simple example projects to learn how software is written from scratch, including the front end and back end of a web or mobile app. This is how you really learn the concepts behind software development. You are learning how to make a real game that people can use. So, if you want to specialize in web programming, you can learn HTML and CSS on top of JavaScript and start making web apps with a database connection that are a little bit more complicated. If you want to get into mobile development, you can learn using one of the languages for mobile development. If you don't know which language to choose, always choose the most famous one because it will help you get a job and has a large community behind it. And here's the thing. If you are thinking, what if I make the wrong choice and start with the wrong thing and find out I don't like it at all? Well, let's say you start with side web development and decide after a month that it's not really for you and you'd rather learn something else. making mobile apps better. That information is not lost. You want to go into a totally different field, like data engineering, cloud engineering, or DevOps. And I'd like to add that areas in software engineering are often the first tech jobs people get. And, as I said, your information will never be wasted because many ideas are related and connected in different ways. Trying to learn everything at once, which I'm sure a lot of you are thinking about doing. And if you do want to start down this path, I have a short boot camp where you can learn everything you need to know about web development, especially full-stack development. With a connection between the front end and the back end of the database and even more, the full software creation and release lifecycle is possible. And my goal was to make it easier for people to get into tech and take away their fear of this scary thing by making things simpler and easier and giving them real projects to make it fun and interesting. Just a shameless plug for our IT course for beginners. If you want to learn more about it, you can watch the movie where I explain in detail what you learned in the course. In fact, software development is the best way to get into DevOps engineering, which is the next most popular IT job. So the DevOps field is becoming more famous, one year at a time. And after being a top software engineer for a few years, he switched to DevOps. DevOps is the subject of a lot of courses and training programs. It is a bit more complicated, so you need to know something about engineering already to move toward DevOps. But what is DevOps, anyway? DevOps is all about automating the processes in the software development and release lifecycle. This means that you need to understand those processes and the whole lifecycle before you can automate them. So DevOps is a more difficult and complicated field that I do not suggest to get started if you don't know anything about IT, but if you slowly learn more about it and find it as interesting as I do, it can be a very fulfilling job. These people probably make a lot more than software workers do. If you want to learn more about DevOps, who it's for, and what skills you need to become a DevOps engineer, I suggest you watch my videos from my DevOps as a job playlist, where I explain all of that in detail. Before we move on to the next job, I do want to point out that many people move into DevOps from roles like systems administration, test automation, network engineering, and other jobs. Everything you need to know about tools and ideas to become a DevOps engineer so far. We've taught more than 2,500 people through this bootcamp. However, as I said before, the DevOps bootcamp is for people who already have some IT experience or knowledge, so we made the IT Beginners Small Bootcamp to help people with no IT experience. So, if you watch the videos about DevOps as a job and decide you want to get into it, these two educational programs will be the best way to get there quickly, easily, and efficiently. The next IT field is cloud engineering, which is linked to DevOps in a lot of ways. A cloud engineer's main job is to build and take care of cloud technology. As more and more businesses switch from handling their own infrastructure to using cloud platforms, the need for cloud engineers is growing. Cloud engineering is also a job with a starting salary. If you already have some experience as a systems administrator, this is probably the easiest IT area to move into. But if you have no experience with IT at all, you can also start your IT journey right here. So, how do you get started in cloud engineering? Well, when it comes to cloud engineering, the two most famous cloud platforms are AWS from Amazon and Azure from Microsoft. Both have different certifications that you can use to get a job as a cloud engineer for that particular cloud company. Then, you can basically focus on that cloud platform. So, obviously, start with the basic AWS Cloud Practitioner Certificate and start learning and planning for that. This will help you learn about all of the most important AWS services. So, if you decide to switch to Azure after learning WSS, or if you find a dream job at a company that uses the Google Cloud Platform instead, you can learn them. It's a lot easier because you already know how to use one cloud platform and the basics of cloud computing with that platform. In fact, learning about two cloud platforms will be a big help because you can now compare them. So, the best way to get your first job in this field is to get the Cloud Practitioner license from an AWS. Now, I want to say that DevOps and the cloud are often the same thing, and they are often mixed up. A cloud engineer will explain in detail what jobs and responsibilities these two fields have in common, as well as what makes them different, so you can see how they are different. Now, there is one thing that both cloud DevOps and software engineering areas have in common. They all need to feel safe. When you set up a cloud system, you have to make sure it is safe. When you create an app, you need to make sure it doesn't have any security holes that hackers could use to get into your systems. When you build DevOps processes that affect your program, your cloud infrastructure, and many other systems, even more security duties to make sure you don't let people know your passwords, secret keys, etc. This means that software writers, cloud engineers, and DevOps engineers all need to know about security. However, security is a very big field, and it affects every part and step of the software development and release lifecycle. So we have a different job for IT security engineers, who are experts in all things related to security. This job is called security professional. You know, tools and systems that help you protect yourself, scan for security problems at different levels and help fix them. There are even security companies outside of the company that help other companies protect their systems. For example, they try to break into their systems and find out where the problem is. The company's systems are insecure because if they can hack into them, so can real hackers. So, as a security engineer, your job is to find these weak spots and tell the company how to protect them. And can you please a general plan for making sure that the whole setup is safe by using different technologies to automate security checks, security tests, and so on. And it goes without saying that security engineers are very important to companies, since a security breach is the worst thing that can happen to them. Cyber attacks are getting more complex, and when the data of millions or even hundreds of millions of users is compromised, the attack has a huge effect. You don't want their system to have any security problems, right? Because of this, there is a huge need for security experts in a lot of fields, and it's only going to get more important in the future. So, if you want to go down this hard but very exciting road, you need to first understand the ideas. You must already know something about one of the IT areas, such as network engineering, cloud engineering, software development, etc. To implement these general security strategies, you'll also need to learn a lot about security ideas and tools. When it comes to protection, passwords and secret information are very important. So, before I go any further, I want to thank Passel, who made this movie possible. Passel is an open-source password manager for Agile and DevOps teams that is made to work with Alt. You can make, store, control, and keep an eye on your team's credentials in a safe way. The security model is built on strong principles, such as end-to-end encryption and granular access rights. It is regularly checked by third parties, but you can also check it yourself because it is 100% open source, even the paid version. This gives you the most privacy possible. You can put your own self-hosted Passport server behind your firewall in just a few minutes using a Raspberry Pi and a high-availability setup. Also, it's important to know that Passport doesn't need to be connected to the internet to work, so be sure to check it out. When millions or billions of people use software every day, they must generate a lot of data, right? Think about social media and the posts and media we make and share every minute or second. Think about the search data that's made every day by millions of people, or the GPS data that's made by Google Maps and other apps that track your location when you buy food at the store or online. Aside from the data that people make, there is also a huge amount of data that is made by devices, like cars with IoT systems, sensors, production machines, robots, logistics, and data package tracking. Even more information than what people make comes from the sources. With all of this, the amount of data has grown a lot over the past few years. Every day, so much happens that if we wrote it all down in books and stacked them up, we would have enough to build a bridge to the moon and back. We also call this information big data, because there is so much of it. Data is now a valuable tool for every business because it helps them understand things better and do things like make predictions. Data is at the heart of political campaigns. Many businesses use data to improve their processes and save money and time. Imagine that these are huge amounts of raw data that came from different places and were made in different ways. For us, the ones are people and pros who work with big data, who use tools to turn these huge amounts of data into information that companies can use, and that is very useful to them. Companies can then use this visualized data to make decisions, predict features, cut costs, and so on. And there are different jobs that involve data that have different tasks and responsibilities, like data analyst, data scientist, and data engineer. The most important things they need to know are math and statistics, as well as how to use different tools that help with data analysis and display. But data scientists need more than just technical skills. They also need to know a lot about businesses and products. So they look at the data with the goal of making good business and product development decisions. They then tell the people who need to know about these choices, such as product owners and business decision makers in the company. But data analysts work with data that has already been cleaned up and organized. So, the raw data needs to be gathered from different sources and put into a shape that can be used by the data analysts. What data scientists do to do their jobs, data engineers need to know about systems and how to program. And to receive, store, and process the data, data engineers build what they call data pipelines. So you can get started in data engineering by learning a computer language like Python and its data processing frameworks and libraries, learning databases and query languages like SQL, and big data-specific frameworks like Apache Hadoop, which is a famous framework that lets you store and work with huge amounts of data. The third job I mentioned is that of a data scientist, which is usually the best paid of the three. One thing they both have in common is that you also need to know a lot about math and numbers. But if you work in data science or data analytics, you will do a lot of math and numbers. The main difference between data scientists and data analysts is that data scientists usually need more advanced technology skills than data analysts. So, data scientists are generally more experienced engineers who can make advanced models for machine learning and algorithms that can predict the future. The hottest job in IT is called machine learning engineering, which is another job related to big data. We said that data analysts and data scientists use data to look for trends and patterns, as well as to make choices and guesses. So, people can use data to make choices based on the data, but machines, or programs, can also use data. Now, what exactly is machine learning, and why do machines need information? How are they going to use it? When we make software, we write programs and tell them what to do. In machine learning, machines can do a job without being told to do it, which are also called algorithms for machine learning. So, machine learning means that computers can think and act on their own without being told or trained to do so. The first step is to write the formulas that help the machine learn. And the second part is giving these algorithms big sets of data that have already been processed. To work with data, they both need to be good at math and statistics. But while data scientists try to figure out how to make sense of the data, visualizing and showing it better is a big part of their job. Machine learning is all about how computers can use data. So getting started in machine learning engineering is a lot like getting started in data science. You should start by learning a programming language like Python, which has strong machine learning frameworks and statistics, which are very important parts of machine learning engineering. Now, you may have already noticed that I mentioned the Python computer language in all of those areas. This is because Python is a general-purpose language. Using Python to build websites is nothing at all like there is a big difference between using Python for DevOps automation and machine learning. So first you learn the syntax and general programming ideas of Python's core, and then you learn the tools and frameworks that are used in each IT field. So web development, machine learning, and DevOps automation all have their own tools and libraries that you need to learn for those fields. And if you want to learn the basics of Python, like its structure and how it works, you can check out our free course on Python, which I'll link to right here. Can you get a degree in computer science from college? Do you take classes online? Do you sign up for a boot camp in data science, code, or our DevOps boot camp? Well, I started out studying information technology at a professional university, but I did most of my studying online. Wasn't always easy, so I kept learning more by watching YouTube videos, reading blog posts, and taking online classes. So, if you start out in software development and later want to do DevOps, machine learning, or cloud engineering, you can still use what you've learned and won't have to start from scratch in those fields. If you don't know where you want to go yet, you can start with any of these, maybe the easiest one, and move in any direction later. So, good luck, and I'll see you in the next movie. Thanks for watching.